Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be sharing my birth story. I don't know if it's going to be super interesting or if anyone will even watch it, but I thought I would share it because, I don't know, it wasn't like, I just figured I would share my birth story for any expecting mamas out there that are wondering what it's like, because I am a first-time mom and I had no idea what labor was going to be like. So I have my entire birth story written here in my notes, so I'm going to be kind of like going off of that. And my due date for baby girl was October 22nd, so that was like full term. She could come anytime, all good. My due date was October 22nd. And I'd been feeling Braxton Hicks for definitely like a month or two up to this point. Totally normal. It's just like your stomach tightens. It's just your body preparing you for labor. And none of it had been painful. I'd just been feeling those. So the next morning I woke up and it kind of felt like I was starting my period, which obviously I'm not, but it kind of felt like cramping, like my period was starting. I had like mild contractions. They weren't really intense, they were like kind of painful, and I had like an app that I was tracking them on. I was getting too caught up in the whole like tracking my contractions and like seeing how far apart they were, and it's just too caught up in it. You're gonna like make your body think that you are in labor and it's really just not. So anyway, I had those pretty much all day and I thought they were intense. Little did I know those were not intense. They were just building it up. So finally I was like, maybe we should go in. Like, I called the hospital. I was like, yep, we're gonna come in. Like, we're gonna get checked out. I've been having contractions all day. They're like, yeah, you can come in whenever. So Troy and I packed up the stuff. We went to the hospital. By this point, it was like the middle of the night. So we got in, they put us into a room, hooked me up to a monitor, they checked my cervix, 1 centimeter dilated, so that was a little like disheartening. And then they monitor you for an hour with the heart rate monitors and everything hooked up to your belly, like monitoring your contractions and baby's heart rate and everything. And you could see like the contractions happening and they were like very mild. So after an hour, the nurse came in, she checked me again. I was now 2 centimeters dilated, and she said I was about 60% effaced. So really not what we wanted to hear. And by this point, it was probably like 3 in the morning, and they called my midwife and they said, she said, just go home, rest, labor at home. It's definitely the start of it, but you're not close like enough to be staying in the hospital. So instead of driving all the way home, because our house is about an hour away from the hospital, we went to stay at my parents' house, which is only about 20 minutes from the hospital. So we went and stayed there. Troy went right to sleep, and I continued to labor and have contractions through the night. I got a little bit of sleep, but not as much, because the contractions were definitely getting a bit more painful now, and I would really have to like breathe through them. So I would fall asleep, wake up to a contraction, fall asleep, wake up to a contraction. So this was Saturday the 23rd, so on the 24th, the next morning, I continued to contract through the day, and they just kept getting more painful. I would try to nap, I would try and eat. I couldn't really eat, I wasn't really hungry, and the contractions were just getting intense. I was having like a lot of blood tinged like mucus, so I wasn't sure if that was like my mucus plug. So I called the hospital about coming in, and once again we were there at like 1 a.m. and got hooked up to the monitors again. They checked me, still 2 centimeters, got hooked up to the machines. Contractions were stronger, so it was like much more painful waiting that hour, and we were exhausted, so we like tried to nap. And then after the hour, checked my cervix again, and I had not dilated at all. So at this point I was feeling very exhausted. It had been like, last night's good night sleep I'd had was Friday night, so I barely slept the night before. and I knew I was not in for another night's sleep tonight. So once again, they sent me back home, and once again it was like 4 a.m. when we finally got home, and the contractions were very strong and coming in waves the whole night, and I did not sleep a wink. So Monday, this is October 25th now, so I have been laboring for about 48 hours now. We went back to my parents the night before. We didn't go back to our house. And so by Monday, my contractions were about 3 to 6 minutes apart, and they were coming and lasting for about a minute, minute and a half each. So they were very painful. I was having to bend over. I was having Troy rub my hips and like press on them to try and like relieve some of the pressure. I was trying to breathe through them, and it was just really hard. I was taking showers, like hot showers, so it was like washing over my bump and like taking baths. And my midwife had recommended taking Benadryl to try and get some sleep. I tried that, that did not work. The contractions were just way too strong. And finally I called her several different times, and I told her, I want to go into the hospital, but I cannot bear to go into the hospital and then get sent home again. I just could not deal with that again. So I told her this on the phone, and because I was like, the pain is like getting unbearable, she said, you should definitely come in. We'll either give you therapeutic rest or you're going to be dilated enough to start labor. So we got to the hospital around 5 p.m. on Monday, got hooked up to the monitor to monitor his baby heart rate and my contractions, which were very strong and painful now. And you could tell on the contraction monitor where it like goes up and down and spikes, it was much, much stronger, and they were way higher than on Saturday night when we went in. So at this point I was 3 centimeters dilated and 90% effaced, which was good. So they said they were going to do therapeutic rest for me, which means they are going to give me Benadryl. So it meant they were going to give me Benadryl and a shot of morphine so that I could get some sleep, because I had not slept in like for 2 nights, and I really needed to rest to get my strength up for actually pushing during labor. She was napping, but now she is awake. So you gonna hang out with Mama? So they moved us into a postpartum room that had 2 beds, a bathroom, a shower for me to get some sleep, and it also gave Troy the opportunity to have a bed to himself and also get some sleep. So I continued to contract, and around 11 they finally brought my meds in. They gave me the morphine shot, which was in my butt, so not very fun, but honestly at that point I was in so much pain, so it didn't really feel like much. And they gave me Benadryl, and I was able to sleep for a few hours, probably like, I would say 3 or 4 max, before it started wearing off, and the contractions were coming back quite strong and painful. Around 5 a.m. I thought my water broke, because like I had this gush of liquid, but it turned out not to be that. But at that point they decided to check my cervix again, and at this point I was 5 centimeters dilated, so I was like, hallelujah, the morphine stuff did the job. We can now get an epidural, because when I went into it I didn't really want an epidural. I wasn't like against anything, I was just trying to do it as naturally as possible. But by this point I had been laboring for about 72 hours, so I needed something to take the edge off, because I was in pain, I was exhausted. I was like, after they checked me and I was 5 centimeters, I was like, okay, can I get the epidural now? But by this point the contractions were very, very painful. I was practically like yelling through them, like anything to help me manage the pain. So I took a really hot shower, and Troy was helping me like by rubbing my back and pressing on my hips still. And then I tested positive for group B strep, which is something that like they test for in pregnancy. So I was given an antibiotic IV for that, and then you get your blood drawn. And so by the time I was 5 centimeters dilated, I was like heading into active labor, so my mom was able to come in, and then they moved us into the delivery room. They gave me a large bag of solution to help hydrate me, and then got the epidural. This was the most amazing feeling in the world. Honestly, people ask if it hurts. It doesn't hurt. Like, at this point, you've been laboring, you're in pain. It feels like you're getting a shot in your back. It doesn't feel like much, and then it takes effect in like 10-15 minutes, and it's so relieving. Your body goes numb from the waist down, and your contractions simply feel like tightening. It's like you don't feel the pain that comes with it. You can feel your stomach harden and tighten as you get a contraction, but you don't feel the pain that comes with it. So after it takes effect, I finally take a nap. That was the best nap of my life. So I took a nap before that, and then they came and checked me, and I was like rapidly dilating at this point. So I was nearly at 10 centimeters, but my contractions were getting further and further apart, and they were kind of like slowing down. So they were talking about putting me on Pitocin to kind of speed that up again, because sometimes the epidural can cause that to slow down. So as they were talking about putting me on Pitocin, the contractions suddenly got super close together, and I quickly dilated to a 10. So my midwife came in, and we started doing some practice pushes so I could get an idea of what it felt like to push and what muscles I should be using. So by this point, at like noon, I started like actually pushing to get the baby out, and I could feel air coming down the birth canal. So I ended up pushing for like about 2 hours. So I would take a deep breath with each contraction and then push and try and push Lucy down. And everyone was coaching me along. I had like a lot of support in the moment, and like as her head was crowning, I was like, I want this baby out. And they said, just wait, like wait until the next contraction comes and then push. And I just like pushed, and then the rest of her like quickly came out. So she ended up being born around 2:19 p.m. and she weighed 8 pounds 10 ounces. So Lucy was a big girl. So after she was born, then they have to press on your stomach to get your placenta to detach from your uterine wall, which honestly hurt more than birth and labor. After all that like trauma that you've been through, they then have to massage your stomach very hard to finally get your placenta to detach. And then you get cramps when you're breastfeeding, so that's fun too. But after that's all over, I was just able to nap and bond with my daughter. And although it was a long build-up to giving birth, and the pre-labor was hard and exhausting and mentally like I wanted to give up, I was able to get through it because I had a lot of support from Troy and my mom and my dad. And it was an amazing experience, and I will do it again, and I would do it again just for this little one. I hope that helped any new moms out there with what to expect, because I had to tell you now what a contraction actually feels like. I couldn't tell you. I think that's the reason that women can have babies again and again, because there's something in your brain that like wipes out the feeling, and you don't even remember what it feels like to have those contractions until you do it again. Like there's some like hormone or something that literally like wipes your brain, because I could barely remember what it felt like 2 days later. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please subscribe, like, and I will see you in my next video.